I would like to invite the panel members, Mr. Mr. Anup P.S., CBO and ED, Ibmc Financial Professionals Group. Also joining us virtually is Ms. Ari Maradji, Director of AM Connect International, Australia. And we have joining us virtually from the United States, Mr. Jai George, founder and CEO of Lion Eagle Family USA. And here in the flesh is Advocate Binoy Sassi, international lawyer for DIFC courts and India High Courts, and Mr. Senthil Kumar, Chief Operations Officer of Standard Pure Gold Trading, LLC, Dubai. Would you please join us on stage? Thank you so much. And just one more certificate to introduce His Excellency Joshua R. Calino. Okay, as you all know, Gold Industry Conclave 3 is about the importance of secured trade flow system for gold transactions with compliance, TCI, and factoring. The gold industry globally, from mining to retail consumption, is undergoing rapid changes. Technology is reshaping everything we do. Demand patterns are changing, and global compliance standards are getting stronger. Global change is visible, but country-wise initiatives differ. The UAE has taken very strong stand in enhancing its law and compliance related to the gold industry and is truly playing a vital role as the hub of global gold trade. Let's start the conclave with a presentation from Advocate Binoy Sassi, international lawyer for DIFC Court and India High Courts, on the legal and compliance initiatives from a UAE perspective.
Yes, good afternoon. We are going to discuss the new law regarding Dubai anti-money laundering regulations on gold business. The anti-money laundering in Dubai is primarily based on UAE federal legislation developed to meet the international anti-money laundering standards set out in the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force of UAE. The important acts of this federal legislation governing anti-money laundering in Dubai include Federal Law Decree number 4 of 2002 concerning combating money laundering and terrorism financing crimes, Federal Law number 1 of 2004 Decree on combating terrorism offences, Federal Law number 20 of 2018 on anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism and the financing of illegal organizations. In addition to federal UAE-wide laws, the separate and complementary DIFC regulatory law 2004 imposes specific anti-money laundering regulations on the specific economic zone under jurisdiction of the Dubai Finance Service Authority. Under Article 7 one of the regulatory law 2004 requires firms within the DIFC to comply with the obligations imposed under the UAE federal law. In order to operate in the DIFC, the banks, the financial institutions, and other obliged entities must receive authorization from the Dubai Finance Service Authority and obtain a license. So the DIFC anti-money laundering compliances, in accordance with the federal authorities' recommendations, the Dubai Finance Service Authority requires firms in the DIFC to take a risk-based approach to money laundering. In practice, that means they must develop an anti-money laundering program that is proportionate to the money laundering risks that they face and includes the following measures and processes. First one is customer due diligence. The firm should put appropriate measures in place to verify the identities of their customers and ensure they are being truthful about the nature of their business. Customers who present a higher money laundering risk should be subject to enhanced due diligence measures. For transaction monitoring, firms should monitor customer transactions and accounts for activity that could indicate money laundering, such as transactions exceeding a certain threshold, suspicious transaction patterns, or transactions involving high-risk countries. The screening. Firms should screen their customers for adverse media and politically exposed person status as well as against the relevant international sanctions list. Compliance officer, internal anti-money laundering program should be overseen by a compliance officer, also known as a money laundering reporting officer, who has sufficient authority and expertise to carry out their role efficiently. When firms within the DIFC dictate suspicious activity, they should submit a suspicious activity report to the UAE Central Bank and to the Dubai Finance Service Authority through a supervised firm contact forum. Anti-money laundering rule book says that the DIFC issues an anti-money laundering rule book to firms with the specific modules concerning the application of anti-money laundering regulations within the DIFC. The rule book contains guidance on how to interpret anti-money laundering legislation and how to implement the risk-based approach. All banking and financial institutions within the DIFC should be familiar with the details of the DIFC AML rulebook. So the Dubai Financial Service Authority enforcement, when the firms within the DIFC fail to comply with the AML regulations, the DFSA has the power to conduct investigations into the offences. The DFSA may seek a variety of evidence as part of that investigation, including obtaining accounts and records and interviewing employees under oath. Where firms are found to have fallen short of expected compliance standards, the DFSA has the power to impose punishments, including fines, license suspensions, or revocations, or administrative restructuring. Money laundering offences may result in the fines from between 10,000 to 1 million dirhams or prison sentence up to 10 years. The anti-money laundering compliance guide for gold and precious metals dealers in the UAE for the anti-money laundering business that deals with the gold, silver and other precious metals are now required to meet the requirements set out in the UAE. Law for anti-money laundering and combating financing of terrorism and the dealers in the precious metals and precious stones fall within the category of designated non-financial business and professionals regulated by the Ministry of Economy. Considering the inherent risk associated with the activity, the gold and the precious metal dealers must adopt a specific predefined steps to ensure anti-money laundering compliance and avoid the hefty penalties prescribed by the Ministry of Economy. The higher services of anti-money laundering consulting firms in the UAE can avoid the high risk factor by the designated non-financial business and professionals, that is especially the parties played by Benz and Ibmc. Performs to meet their regular client by checking, monitoring large transactions and implement a robust anti-money laundering program compliance system with their organization to ensure AML compliance. Since the identifying the risk and adopting the preventive measures are tough yet inevitable, the help of anti-money laundering consultants in Dubai will come in hands for the gold dealers. Precious metals or precious stones dealers must meet the AML obligations when they qualify as designated non-financial business and professions as defined in the Cabinet Decision number 10 of 2019 concerning the implementing regulation of Decree Law number 20 of 2018. The precious metals have high intrinsic value in a compact form and maintain or increase value over a period. Precious metals are easy to smuggle physically in a variety of forms. Precious metals can be used as a means to launder the proceeds of crime. Money laundering through the precious metals can be done in a wide range of ways, such as physical exchange through currency or indirect exchange through the exchange of value through various forms and informal financial systems. The presence of well-established cash-based markets for gold and diamonds make it vulnerable to money laundering risk. So how can precious metal dealers mitigate money laundering risk? Gold or other precious metal dealers are required to fulfill specific obligations which constitute the basis of a robust risk-based AML program in respect of suspicious transactions. These obligations include identifying and assessing a risk related to money laundering, establishing, documenting, and updating AML policies to mitigate the risk identified, implementing and maintaining risk-based customer due diligence and monitoring processes, identifying and reporting suspicious transactions, implementing a robust governance framework for AML, such as appointing an anti-money laundering compliance officer and a training staff, maintaining proper records in relation to all the above recommendations, definitions, means the client means any person involved in or attempt to carry out any of the activities specified in the implementing regulations of this decree law with one of the financial institutions or designated non-financial business and professions. Beneficial owner means the natural person who owns or exercises effective ultimate control directly or indirectly over a client or the natural person on whose behalf a transaction is being conducted, or the natural person who exercises effective ultimate control over a legal person or a legal arrangement. Transaction means all disposal or use of funds or proceeds including, for example, deposits, withdrawals, conversion, sales, purchases, lending, swapping, mortgage, and donation. Register means entity in charge of supervising the register of commercial names for all types of establishments registered in the UAE. Customer due diligence, the process of identifying or verifying the information of a client or beneficial owner, whether a natural or legal person or a legal arrangement, and the nature of his activity and the purpose of the business relationship and the ownership structure and control over it for the purpose of this decree law and its implementing regulations. Control delivery means the process by which a competent authority allows the entering or transferring of illegal or suspicious funds or crimes in revenues to all and from the UAE for the purpose of investigating a crime or identifying the identity of his perpetrators. Undercover operations, the process of search and investigation conducted by one of the judicial impoundment officer by impersonating or playing a disguised or false role in order to obtain evidence to or formation related to the crime. The Federal Law Decree number 20 of 2018, very important articles including Article 2, any person having knowledge that the funds are proceeds for a felony or a misdemeanor and who willfully commits any of the following acts shall be considered a preparator for the crime of money laundering, transferring or moving proceeds, or conducting any transaction with the aim of concealing or disguising their illegal source. Concealing or disguising then the true nature, source or location of the proceeds, as well as the method involving their disposition, movement, ownership of or rights with respect to said proceeds, acquiring, possessing or using proceeds upon request, assisting the perpetrators of the predicate offense to escape punishment. The crime of money laundering is considered as an independent crime. The punishment of the perpetrators for the predicate offense shall not prevent his punishment for the crime of money laundering. Providing the illicit source of the proceeds should not constitute a prerequisite to sentencing the perpetrators of the predicate offense. Article number 4. The legal person shall be criminally responsible for the crime if it is committed in their name or for its accounts internationally without prejudice to the personal criminal responsibility or the perpetrators and administrative penalties as prescribed by the law. Article number 18, any person shall disclose whenever he brings into UAE or take out any currency or bearer negotiable instrument or precious metals or stones of value in accordance with the disclosure system issued by the central bank. Article number 20, any court injunction or court decision providing for the confiscation of funds, proceeds or instrumentalities relating to the money laundering, terrorist financing or financing of illegal organizations may be recognized if issued by a court or judicial authority of another state with which the state has entered into a ratified convention.
Advocate Binoy, thank you very much for sharing. And as we just heard, the UAE has in fact taken a very strong stance in enhancing its law and compliance related to the gold industry. But from a legal perspective, is the system and regulatory changes good for this industry necessarily?
Definitely, because UAE is moving very fast in the Middle East for the all businesses, including the gold industry. Same time, this is the criminals, you can say, they will use this as a shield to propagate their funds in the UAE with the behind this. So that is the very important thing. The government is to make new law. So that means a compliance officer, a compliance and legal is a very important factor in the gold business.
Mr. Sajis, can we hear from you? I mean, why should gold industry be cautious on compliance, on TCI and factoring? And what is the need for secure trade flow system?
After pandemic COVID-19, then if you are considering the non-oil sector diversification program, across the globe, the compliance or the regulatory changes are indeed to drive the markets. The gold industry especially, it was not a disclosed the transactions. The people were not come on transparent level. The law is saying that, or regulations, what Advocate Binoy Shashi was mentioning here, the people should disclose themselves and do the transaction more transparent level in the gold industry. It is very much important from the mining level or from the exporters level, they should disclose their entities, names and their what FATF was already, he mentioned in that. The information about the transaction people are doing and the tax aspect. So that's a sourcing country, and whenever it is coming here the customs duty is coming in place. Those information are most important, that should be recordically come to the government books of accounts. So that is the most important thing. The regulators are tightening their rules and regulations for making the transparent transactions. When they are disclosing, the advantage is non-gold industry people will come into this gold industry for the business and investments. The AML part, well before that, the KYC compliance. KYC compliance, we know that earlier what people were doing, hand carrying and just selling without disclosing their names and source. But that matter is already over. Now the source of the gold and the buyer's information and who all are there coming as intermediary, everything is being disclosed. The online trading, second thing, the physical, the earlier part, if you say that the traditional way of the selling gold, hand carry and just simply selling off. The online trading, the regulated and non-regulated platforms were available. People cannot able to understand, even though for who are coming to this gold industry as a business person or the investor, to whom with they are dealing. So these two concerns were there if we say that a pre-COVID pandemic. But post-COVID pandemic, this is being cleared, clarified, that the trade flow system should be there. Without trade flow system, these transactions cannot able to do that. So government authorities, even though from UAE, they have started issuing the private trade flow licenses. So that means the online trading or the trade flow system, this both are different. Online system, the advantages and disadvantages are there, disadvantages more into that, and we don't know to whom with we are dealing, some platforms. Most of them are not regulated. Only few platforms were available, the regulated one. The trade flow system is fully regulated and fully complied, more transparent. So how it's happening, all the stakeholders in the gold industry, from the mining to the exporters or importers and the gold refineries and the gold ornaments manufacturing and re-export people, all are entered into this. Even though the transportation people, all are coming into this trade flow system. Everything is declared. So that means the true business, if we say that will happen more into the gold industry. This region, if you say that the non-oil sector diversification program, the gold industry is most important and taking more relevant part for generating the bilateral trades. Second thing, the post-COVID pandemic, the gold industry is becoming more attractive. And as I mentioned today morning, this is not irrespective of the gold price, where people can able to enter into that for a long-term basis. And they are getting the opportunity directly to deal with the mining companies. That means this conference is also providing the opportunity to discuss directly with the mining companies, those who are already here, and regulators are here, and the diplomats are here, and we can able to discuss directly with them. And in the diplomatic panel itself, it was mentioning about the regulatory aspects and all the compliance important. So considering all, the trade flow system, the regulated and transparent transactions are important. The other non-gold industry people, if they are coming, no doubt, within 2 years' time, the transactions will double. And we know that the World Bank or IMF reports is saying that the economies, most of them will double into that within 2 to 5 years' time. It is very much clear that the transparent, regulated way we need to move, then only we will get it, the returns. And whenever people are investing, earlier they were looking only for returns. But today, why they are investing? For returns and knowledge. Thank you.
So this increased transparency will increase return on investment in the medium to long term ultimately. Mr. Kumar, how do changes in law and compliance affect the real business here in the UAE?
Can you please repeat the question?
How do changes in law and compliance affect the real business in the UAE?
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Senthil Kumar from Standard Pure Gold. See, Dubai is a land of many of the firsts, which has been first of its kind globally. So, to that matter, even when we take gold as a business trade, like right now, Sajid summed up the whole process of why compliance, easy flow, or the trade flow, process oriented, everything was summed up into one short capsule which answers all the questions why compliance also. As he rightly said, as of now, gold business is done with only few traders who have been conventionally doing gold within a sort of family business. But once it opens up, when the compliance is there, transparency is there, people know, okay, this is one of the industry where I'm investing, be it a period of 6 months or 1 year or 3 years, whatever it is, and this is the return I'm going to get. So this will really open up to any common man, like we are putting up FD or RD into the banks. So it will open up for the people to invest into the gold industry as a business platform also, which will really help in terms of increasing the business, because transparency is there, and the country where we are in, it's taking care of the compliance and security part of it, and the trade flow system which is being recently launched out, maybe it may be a just year-old or 2-year-old, that's going to give even more clarity right from the production to the end business user as a bullion bar. After the bullion bar, how it goes into the ornament usage, there's already a compliance in place. But we starting this will definitely add value. Maybe like many of the first in Dubai, Global Gold Convention, though it's in the 3rd year, maybe as when we move forward next year, this itself can become a platform where a lot of new procedures start from collaborating the bankers, miners, investors, wherein the platform can be a platform of aggregation of all the people, whoever they want to. Because we can see people who are having a domain expertise about the gold part. We can see people who are having the finance expertise, looking for the right venture to invest for the right returns. So each and every domain needs its own expertise. So this can be used as a platform to collaborate, wherein the growth can be mutual, and so is the growth of the particular industry and economy. And as Tariq said in the last session also, last conclave also, gold is a metal which is going to measure the inflation and treasury of each and every global economy. So when compliance and transparency is opened up, I mean, I see the growth is going to be unimaginable, or we cannot see what is the height of the growth. We need to wait and watch. It makes the importance why compliance and transparency is more important in this particular business trade.
We are joined by Mr. Jai George from the United States. And Mr. George, from the global perspective, the U.S. plays a vital role in the global gold market. Can you give us your opinion on how legal and compliance and new systems are viewed from an American point of view?
Hi, I'm Jay George, founder of Lion Eagle Family Office USA and the Structured Capital Finance Uganda Limited, a gold trading and logistics company based in Uganda, Africa. So from the US perspective, before I can give you from the US perspective, my gold trading and logistics company is based in Uganda. From that standpoint, I can say secured trade flow of gold transaction can happen if there is a compliance of the law by parties to a gold transaction, but also the need to limit use of cash in gold transaction. Compliance to the legal regime should ordinarily be functioned to ensure that good laws are passed, but also complied with. One aspect that should be included is the need to have a cashless system in gold transactions. A cashless system in gold transaction will require the importance of professional institutions like banks, insurance companies, and such financial institutions that are properly regulated. Such institution can ensure safe conclusion of transactions through systems like letter of credit, factoring, guarantees, and trade credit insurance. These professional bodies will ensure compliance of all gold transactions and ensure all legal documents are in place and the parties to the transaction are duly licensed to transact or have no legal impediment to the transactions. These third parties in adopting such a transactional system would eliminate the element of cash and ensure that the parties to the gold transaction. Such a system like factoring, where a bank could act like a factor and make payment to the party to a discounted invoice, hence generating a profit for all the parties. Letters of credit as system in the transaction would also ensure that the legal documents are in order before payment is effected. The bank would foster compliance of the law and the business best practices. For the system of trade credit insurance would also mitigate risk of loss in gold transactions, since the transactional loss would be insured and the insurance company could be liable to pay. Therefore, the insurance companies, to mitigate such, would ensure that such a gold transaction are compliant and bear minimum risk before agreeing to the insurance. In conclusion, to ensure the secure flow of gold transaction, there is need to involve professional bodies like banks and insurance companies. That is my input.
Thank you very much. So banks and insurance companies are also key to transparency. Ms. Marachi, Australia, you're joining us all the way from Australia. Thanks so much for being with us. It's a key player in the global gold market, and AM Connect, being a global consultant in the gold industry, how do you see the current changes in new systems and compliance?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. Well, I have to say, having the new compliance system and the new check it makes all the industry players to be unified as the industry player. And it gives the transparency and less risk. And it makes, as Mr. Sajid mentioned, it makes it much more easier for the new players to come in, to join in, and makes the industry much bigger, much wider. It creates more opportunity for everyone. Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the physical gold trade market that involves from mining, refining, travel, and sales for the whole gold trade. Each one of these sections or sectors, if you look at them deep down, they all involves more than small or, I mean, medium-sized players, and there are a lot of industries involved. Now, transparency in each one of these industries makes it much easier for everyone to be, I mean, playing or to be involved and trading much easier. I'm really surprised to see all this cash flow, as mentioned before. I mean, the cash that still is in place when it comes to trading gold. Looking at the system in Australia, that has been one of the biggest players in gold industry and has been there for many years. All the regulation and all the export is under government, and the regulated part of the cash flow, everything is done through the banking system of the country. Australia has managed to increase and expand their production according to the demand of the market. And at the same time, the country has managed to mature up and gradually educate the whole industry to make it more sustainable. And I like the system that is happening in the UAE and makes it much more easier for everyone else to trade with gold. UAE and basically Dubai is always being known as City of Gold and is always going to stay City of Gold, I believe. Having this transparency and, as mentioned, I mean, this unifying is going to make it to be the main player in that part of the world. Something that is interesting, and I mean, I'm sure everyone else knows, Australia exports gold more than their production. That means in this country, there are some gold comes here to be processed and then re-exported. I would really love to see that is happening in the UAE, and I can see it as a great opportunity. Having UAE as the main exporter of gold to India, it can be the main gold, I can say the manufacturing of gold, like gold mines can happen in Dubai. I mean, we have amazing refineries in Dubai, such as Emirates Gold, as everyone else, I mean, I'm sure they're familiar with it. They can expand it. And under Ibmc's management, I'm sure they can facilitate such trade that can happen. And at the same time, I have to say, the government is taking a massive initiative in the UAE to make this transparency happening. By having this transparency and all this compliance check, there is a massive problem, and everyone complains in the UAE by opening the bank account, for example. Having that compliance in place will make it much easier for everyone else to enter this industry. That is my adding to that.
Thank you, Ms. Meraji. Thank you so much. Mr. Anup, what do you think of what Ms. Meraji said, strengthening Dubai-India gold ties, and how do you see the UAE's positioning in the future of the global gold trade?
Commenting on the future of gold trade and connected to the topic we are discussing, first of all, we have to understand the whole need of AML compliance, the legal regulations. These are all coming, it's affecting two parties, like the good player as well as the bad player. So these regulations are bringing in to control the bad players. In the industry, people who is very familiar with the mining activities and other things, they clearly know that there are a lot of malpractices which is happening. That's the reason why the governments across the world introducing these compliance practices. Say, for example, child labor is happening in the mines, unauthorized mining activities are happening, and at the same time, the illicit organizations that they are controlling the mines, like terrorism organizations, when these people are controlling these activities, they cannot come in the direct channel. So this is coming from the indirect channel, which is affecting a society in general, and at the same time, as Mr. Kumar was again mentioning, like it is gold being the backbone of the global economy, it is affecting the global economy as well. So it is the need for the global economy to control the foul plays. That is why across the globe, the regulations are in place. So anti-money laundering, compliance, all these things are coming in, the regulations are coming in. But when it comes to the implementation stage, there are a lot of challenges, because we are not dealing with one particular country. There are multiple countries, and each country, the regulatory system, implementation level, the controls, everything is different. So a unity in the implementation is not possible. So the global authorities are taking a stand, like giving a broader perspective of AML compliance implementation, and it is being implemented from the center of the gold trade. So for example, when we're talking about UAE, it's the hub of the global gold trade. And we have been seeing people earlier carrying physical gold here in a large scale. And as Mr. Jay was mentioning, like the physical cash involvement in the gold trade is in a very high involvement is there. So as a solution, when people are moving to a cashless economy, these things automatically will reduce. And UAE, when you see right now, this is almost a cashless economy right now. It is setting an example to the world that this cashless economy system is already possible. So that is point number one. It is giving an example to the world that, okay, these systems are in practice. At the same time, the solutions for this, Ms. Ari was mentioning that the bank account opening, the problems and all. A new company in the gold industry is coming in. Why the bank is not able to open the account? Because the AML compliance records are not proper, or the bank is unable to verify. So a company who is coming from other country, when they are producing the documents and other things, if a bank is able to verify the documents, means the systems to be again transparent there. That transparency can be implemented with a proper technology. We had a very wonderful session in the morning, artificial intelligence and blockchain technology, how it can be implemented in the gold industry, right from the mining to the mall level. Mr. V.V. Ravindra had been taking that session, and he was mentioning there that implementation of blockchain technology right from the origin of the gold until this level, these things will be highly transparent. When the transparency is being implemented, the good players will be getting an upper hand. There won't be any problem in opening the bank accounts or anything. So in the second aspect, we are seeing UAE is taking a lead role in latest technology implementation. You can see that UAE is the first country in the world to start a ministry for artificial intelligence. So it is setting up an example and showing to the world that these implementations are possible, and they are encouraging new startups and other lot of initiatives are coming in. So these general initiatives which this country is taking, these are directly or indirectly supporting for the implementation of these regulations and other things, the other countries as well. So because of this reason, in the implementation phase, when people feel that this country can be taken as an example, more and more people will be willing to get connected with UAE. That's why you are seeing last year we had 33 countries participation. This year we are 50 plus. So this is keep on increasing. The real gold players are coming, and they're actively participating in this kind of forums and other things. And UAE's infrastructure is also increasing. We had a limited number of gold refineries here last time. I think during the last 2 years, nearly 4 more new refineries has come up. So the infrastructure also is increasing in UAE. So UAE government is taking a proactive approach in strengthening this economy, at the same time making it much more compliant. So India, as you mentioned, like being a larger consumer of gold, India is also facing a lot of issues, because a lot of internal terrorism activities and other things is funded by the illicit players. So when UAE is taking a control on these things, automatically India is getting the benefit. So the trade relation, the real trade relations will be strengthening, not only from one country, from all the other countries. So that will be supportive for the whole global gold economy.
Advocate Benoit, we know that the UAE has issued a new check law. Can you tell us a little bit about it, and how will it change accountability for those who are writing the checks?
As per the new law, from 2022 January onwards, the check bounce is not a crime at all. It has to be detached from the police. Now, if a check return, it is a crime. We are put the police put the blacklist, and you have to pay the fine, and jail is there. Now, from the January onwards, there is no jail. There is no crime. Criminal case is not there. But instead, the civil procedure law just a little change in the procedure law. When the checker, if one party issued a check, maybe for example 1 million, in that account maybe there is a $500,000. This $500,000 will pass and go to the other party if they agree for this, and balance only to pay. At the same time, the return slip we got from the bank is equivalent to civil court judgment. That means the party who hold the check can directly go to civil court to file execution case. Same time, travel ban can impose and attach the properties and whatever the assets of the check issuer. So it is a very good law. That means once person issued a check, he had to be honored the check. Otherwise, his travel ban imposed there, he cannot travel exit from here. His assets attached at the same time. That is urgent court is there. Secondly, if suppose the person have no money to pay, he has to face jail for minimum 3 years. And even if after 3 years he come out, he cannot exit the country until he pays the money. That means if you issued a check, in the life he cannot go from here without paying the money. That is the ultimate of this law.
This is the progression on the former law that you're describing right now.
Exactly.
Ms. Maraji, tell us what your advice is to the gold business community in this changing scenario that we're seeing right now.
Well, I can't say, my advice, but I would really like to see all the transparency, because that can create a sustainable trade. It can create a sustainable relationship between the countries and between the players. As we have seen, I don't have to mention the risk of carrying gold and the cash, as Mr. Anoop mentioned it, and previously we heard the whole stories and we know all the problems. And with not having this system in place, basically the trust is not there. But as Mr. Anoop mentioned, that is very clear. If one country puts this system in place, it's not only for the benefit of the country, it's for the benefit of other countries, and it creates more opportunity for everyone. Everything can be much easier for all the players, involving from the government to the small players to even the jewelry consumers or buyers. This transparency is extremely important. And for me, as the consultant, I always approach people to be honest, to be transparent, and really comply with all these rules and regulations, and provide all the information as possible, because that is the security, that involves the insurance, that involves actually the long-term relationship. It's not a matter of just creating a small business with the cash. And I'm really happy that UAE is putting this initiative. As I mentioned before, it wasn't there, and it created so much of loss for everyone. I'm so happy, and I really advise everyone to step in, to be positive. I know it's going to be a bit of a challenge to provide all this paperwork, but we have seen other countries to comply with it, and they have a really stable position in the market. The biggest example is Australia. I can see how the system is working for this country. It's amazing. The price of the gold is higher than other part of the world, but when you look at the system, it's something that everyone is, easily can step in, invest in terms of like investor or other countries are easily can enter into the market and try to trade with them because everything is on the table. It's just straightforward.
And on that note, I would like to ask Mr. Sajith Kumar about the new system implementation by IBMC and how SME Economy platform can support the global gold trade.
Advocate Binoy Shashi already explained in detail about the regulations, the new changes in the policies, so what all our things are coming in future. This all regulations or policies or systems which government or governments are implementing, not for any punishment and all. This is for the betterment of the industry and for attracting more business people, more investors into the industry. So we need to understand that the rules and regulations, we need to take it in a, or compliance, take it in a positive way. The compliance and the rules and regulations, those things, they are, these are guiding us in the industry. So IBMC always, believe, or we have 4-pillar strategy to come into that business or investment. So we are considering first factor is legal and compliance. Second is the tax and audit or the tax policies or the accounting policies. Third, the education, the instrument education or financial education, if we say that, then only we can come up to the business level or investment level. So this 4-pillar strategy, we have set the trade flow that is called as SME Economy e-marketplace trade flow system. So considering all these 4 aspects, it's already implemented into a system and providing to the public. They can take it up and more complied way, more transparency level it's coming up, and they can also step into this gold industry very, very easy way. So if people are getting that the non-regulated or not systematic way, whenever this the crises are happening, so we had seen 2008 the global financial downturn, mainly because of the companies, the business people, they were taking their own way of doing the business. Then they are realizing that it is not in a systematic way. They are taking their own way, they are making the system and implementing. Then they are realizing that this is not in tune with the regulation. Okay, so then this time is over. So here in reverse way, what we have set, so we are taking the legal and compliance in depth, then the tax and audit details, then the education level, we are also empowering. 2017 onwards, we were giving the information or awareness campaigns. So from UAE, across UAE, at all Emirates, we were providing that, the non-oil sector diversification programs are coming up. That will make a boom in UAE. Then after that, the pandemic came. Even after that, this is the right time for entering to the business. Why? Then one step more, the government level taken up in the compliance and regulatory level. So it is very much clear that people will not go for the non-regulated activities. Advocate Binoy clearly mentioned that. So there is a system should understand, then the people will not do such practices. So then there will not be any criminal cases or criminal way of activities coming into this industry. So it is very much clear that we have set the SME Economy e-marketplace trade flow system. It is connected to 50+ countries, and how it is working, it is complementary level. Each countries, even though the startup to MNCs, they can join with our trade flow system as a complementary. There is no any spending is involved. Automatically, they are connected with the other 49 countries. So they can start interaction with the international people. So the government level, we have announced 50+ countries. through the respective embassies and all. So embassies, what they are doing, the government authorities, they are uplifting these domestic companies to international level. So this immediate elevation is coming up. So after the COVID pandemic, people are totally desperate. And they can able to give the confidence level. No, this is internationally recognized. So international, the other business or investors are watching you. Okay, so there are possibilities for the investment. So even though one startup is coming up, the government and the authorities are empowering the small entities. No, you are now connected with the international players. So you can, if you are doing professional way and legally, there are scope for getting that partners and getting more businesses. So this is what we have first step done from our trade flow system. Second level, giving the confidence level to the buyer and sellers. How it is coming up, the compliance is in place. So if seller knows the buyer is already regulated and in a transparent way and systematic way, they done and brush it all in reports what we are taking from the both side. The buyer is also knows about that the seller, though, so it is very much a transparent level, complied way, the transaction is going to happen. The third level, the instruments, financial instruments we have infused into that, that is more liberalized way, that is trade credit instruments attached into that. And earlier it was very much difficult to touch the trade credit insurance. It was $10 million above transaction only, it was covering it. Now it came down to the lower level. So we have added trade credit insurance and the factoring services, receivable finance we have added, then letter of credit and other bank instruments what we have added into this. So this three level, it is clearly showing that the transparency of the system, and we were studying that kind of regulations on digital currency, gold-backed digital currency, asset currency. So that is also making more convenience to transfer the funds. So we were dealing with the banks for the currency transfer. Now this digital asset came into the place for transferring the funds immediately. So fully regulated way. So this, if we are considering all together, the trade flow system is very much comfortable for the new players, or the we have already added our new regulations, the new regulations what all are coming in, and the compliance part, everything is protecting that. So protecting system we have already developed, that's called as SME economy, e-market trade flow system. And you all can access the portal www.smeeconomy-uae.com. And you can also access through your mobile app SME economy. So that is the ultimate word for trade flow system at present. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to open the floor to the audience if anybody has a question in the audience. We do have a couple of more minutes if somebody would like to ask a question to our panelists. If not, I would like to ask if the panelists would like to make any closing remarks.
My name is Humayd Al-Blushi. Once again, another question. In order to understand, the process of the regulatory, the process of regulatory, and if we are to understand the process of the gold trade between the gold mine to the refinery and of course and the rest of the processes, how is the coding or the let's call it within the blockchain that was mentioned earlier, how is that going to be controlled? Because I believe it's raw gold and then it's melted and then refined. So is there a policy, is there a regulatory, are the authorities taking that into consideration? How is that processed? So that's something that I could not understand.
Who would like to answer this question?
Sure, I will start with that, then you can also give your comments. Definitely, the trade flow system, what we were talking about that, trade flow, why trade flow system is coming up? For giving the confidence level ourselves. First of all, when the buyer is buying that, he should have proper knowledge and he should know about the policies, new regulations. He should aware about that how the business practice is going on. Same way seller side. So trade flow system is introducing each others, first of all, by compliance, not by giving that the information from any third party. The compliance, this, in the, if we are saying about the trade flow system of Ibmc, this SME economy, first of all, we are taking the due diligence report of both buyer and seller. Okay, so this is for long term, not for one trade. So this is for long term, this trade flow system, this is happening 3 to 6 months time. You know that the process 18 steps are there. So then only this process are starting into that. The company or the mining company, if we are doing the due diligence of the corporate, so we need to take more information from them. Then it is available in the system. When buyer is coming and just giving all this information to them, then he knows that with the reports. He knows about the seller who is doing that properly. And the buyer details, similar way we are capturing and giving to the Dun & Bradstreet is our, the partner for this, providing the information. So giving to the other party seller. So seller knows who is going to buy, buyer knows who is going to sell the gold. This is the most important thing what we need to understand. The people, what was happening earlier, why we have adopted this system, they were contacting third parties, the intermediaries. Maybe 5, 6 levels of intermediaries are coming into that. So people does not know from where it is happening, this gold from where it is coming in. Or the seller does not know that who is the ultimate buyer on that. So this transparency is coming up, this is regulated. That means both parties knowing about the compliance part. Second is legal part. So legal, so first, we are working on 4 pillars strategy. First is compliance and legal. The legal thing, how to do the trade, transaction. So whether it is cash driven, no, this is online or bank, through bank only. So that, how it is going to happen, when they will pay. So the seller always having the concern that from where I will get money, this intermediaries will pay or the real buyer will pay. And buyer is who will give that gold. Intermediaries will give or the seller will give. So the transaction, how we are securing that in our trade flow system, we cannot pay upfront. They cannot give the gold and waiting for the money. So a lot of disputes are there existing. So how to mitigate this challenge? So that we have taken up this challenge, how it's happening. So there will be a segregated bank account. That account is being used only for the transaction between the buyer and seller. So what is the agreement is coming into that? The agreement also legalized agreement. So in that legalized agreement is saying that whenever this, he can export very well the seller, whenever the gold is reaching to the place wherever they are, insisting, and the local assaying, it is going directly to the refinery. That's a regulator licensed refinery. Refinery will provide the assay report, the information about the gold. Then this information is going to the bank. Then only based on that and based on the LBMA rate, it is applicable and invoicing is happening, and based on that final invoice, the fund will be transferred. This is not for one transaction. You need to understand that when we are dealing with the mining companies and all, this is for 3 to 5 years. So that's why 3 to 6 months time it is taking for the due diligence purpose. Okay, so this is how it is happening. The level of compliance, it is coming into the tax and audit. Tax and audit, how it's happening? Whether they are providing sufficient tax over there at their country or not. So we are asking for the tax receipt. Okay, earlier it was not coming into that. So now tax receipt is most important. So the government already taken new regulations over their tax, most important. So tax receipt is coming second level. So the accounting purpose, it is clear. So this is second vertical is already over. Then it is coming to the learning, little more learning how this process will complete. So this much time will take. So that is called as the agreement points. So agreement points is if they are sending and if it is coming here and if it is failure, if it is success, then only it will happen, it will not. So this is the learning process. People should understand the process clearly. Then it is coming to the business, the smooth business, smooth investments are happening. This is my answer. I hope that knows I have covered.
Mr. Kumar, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Sajit has already answered it perfectly fine, but I would like to thank for the question. Why? Because the question may be very simple, but when we see the depth of the question, it's much broader, covering up the end-to-end perspective and usage of the platform. I mean, I would like to answer with the testimony being my company itself, because we have been doing it manually now, till now. We have offices, export offices across 7 countries in Africa, and 3 import, including UAE, UK, Singapore, and US. We have the import licenses also. Being visionary, we have gone through the hard process of being compliant, being AML compliant, and Go AML compliant. So now we can proudly say that we are 100% process-oriented company with 100% supply chain owned by us. But now this particular platform coming into place, we starting to use the platform now from 7 plus 3, 10 countries. Maybe next year when we meet, we'll be present in all the 50 countries because of the benefit of the platform. The other easy example what I would like to quote here is, everybody in this room will be knowing about at least net banking. All will be doing our internet banking, not from within the country, globally. So any of the core banking application, the way it performs end to end till from the starting point, how the money reaches to the end customer, or whoever is aware about the Ijari portals, which is being used by the UAE government for all the governmental transactions, right from the RFP till the code process and delivery process and the payment process, invoicing process. So it's a similar thing when the trade platform is implemented, which is being used, and as Sajit rightly said, we are still learning, we are improvising. Then comes into place of AI and blockchain, like Ravi cleanly told in the morning. So maybe in next 1 year's time, it will be even more matured system, because every country has its own rules and regulations, starting from the export permits, mining permits, way of assaying, taxation differs from country to country in regards to the export taxes, and what are the policies they have in regards to their country's gold export. So everything has to be brought onto the platform, which is slowly happening in that particular country's perspective. And as we speak, I mean, today morning, myself and Sajit were having a discussion. This particular platform is already regulated in UAE. Am I right, Sajit? Yes. So it's ADGM regulated as well as DAFC regulated. So it is not like, I mean, it is somebody overnight flyaway companies or guys platform. It's a 100% regulated platform, which is going to get even more strengther and strengther, so that like a core banking platform or a core trading platform, this is going to be unique for the gold bullion trade itself. Maybe it can be used for any commodity in the future. So I think to add to the answer what Sajit said, I mean, A to A is going to be, or A to Z is going to be 100% secure, and the benefit is going to be realized as and when it goes with the time.
And do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, sir, in the back. There's a gentleman in the back here.
Hi, my name is Raghavendra Kedia. I represent Arihant Singapore, and my company is expanding its trading operations in UAE. So there is some overlap with what Mr. Senthil Kumar's company does. So my question is to Mr. Kumar, from the trading perspective, what are the 2 big challenges or pain points you see for any gold or bullion trading company which is setting up operations in UAE or broadly in the Middle East? So if you have those 2 challenges or some points or maybe a wish list which you want to be resolved if the regulators or the agencies are listening to. If you can just give some highlight on that, please.
See, I mean, the answer has been discussed since morning multiple times, but I would like to sum it up. As we spoke about the platform, it takes minimum 6 months to complete the due diligence process itself. Same way, be it UAE or any of the African countries where we have the offices, including our Singapore office, all the banks look for the complete supply chain document, the compliance document, and who is the signatory, and they do a world check also. So if all the documents are in place as per the bank's requirement, then also bank takes its own time to do a due diligence, which minimum takes at least 3 months to set up the bank accounts. So opening up a bank account is the only toughest job. Opening up a trade license, you can open in any country starting from 1 day to 1 month. That's not a problem at all. But to do the business, we need to have the bank account. And to have the bank account, starting from the shareholders, owners, the sponsors, which country you are present in, how your capital is going to come in, who are your vendors, who are your customers. So there's a complete set of documents what has to be submitted to the bank. When you are ready with all those documents, then there is no hassle at all. It will be as easy as within 1 week also you can get it open. The same thing what happens on the trade flow platform also. We need all this to do the procedure check, compliance check before you are onboarded or given permission to be enabled as a platform user. I think that answers your question.
Yes, very precisely. Actually, we are meeting few bankers and there's a lot of paperwork and it's getting very exhaustive as well as, for a lack of a better word, I can say frustrating. But yes, this helps to understand that we are not the only ones going through this process. There are a few more companies, or it's a general industry standard. Thank you.
Coming on to the frustrating part, I would like to add one thing here. Whoever is into business or newly wanting to come into business, see, when we are traveling from country to country, when we go and stand in front of immigration for a visa stamping, whatever question they ask or valid questions, we are not supposed to cross-question. Why? Because they are acting on behalf of the country's security. We simply answer and give the answers and they do the visa processing. Same way when it comes to bankers, bankers are doing their due diligence to ensure that everything is proper, because a banking system can affect the economy also. Banking system, one person's mistake can affect the banking complete system also. So rather than getting frustrated, we should have patience, we should be consistent. First of all, we should know, are we proper in our due diligence? Are we really satisfied? If we satisfy our own self, then believe me, all the bankers' questions can be answered on the same day, then there will be no frustration. But if we think, I am an investor, I have already brought in the money, I put in $1 million, I opened up the trade license, why is the bank not opening my account? If you go with that mindset, believe me, instead of completing in 1 month, you will take 1 year to open a bank account. I hope that answers the question.
Well, very well. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
I hope next year you come to the conference with news of your new bank account.
Let's hope so, yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Yes, sir. I have one question at table 2, please.
Thank you. My question is to Advocate Binoy Shashi. This is, though not related to gold business, but exceptionally you already mentioned about the decriminalization of checks, bounce checks or dishonored checks. But one media report said that it was already implemented from 1st of November. But I understand that the earlier announcement was that it will be implemented from 1st of Jan 2022. What is the clarification?
The Gazette notification is the final year to be followed. That is from the January 1st, 2022. That means the newspaper is a mistake.
Oh, I see. Another question is that recently the family law, which was actually non-Muslims, how is it going to affect them, especially in the inheritance?
This is a very interesting question, because especially in the matter of assets, the family law. Now here the UAE existing system is for the based upon Sharia plus non-Muslims for the UAE federal law. But now the government already going to implement a new law for the Abu Dhabi Emirates only, for our residents. In that family law, it is very clearly mentioned that for the non-Muslims, if they can make a will according to as they like, they can give the assets to anybody as they like. They have full freedom to give the assets. by through will. Suppose any person died without a will, then there is a law saying that 50% of the assets go to their spouse, and 50%, balance 50% goes to their children. Suppose there is no children, the 50% of assets go back to their parents. So that means because majority of issues happening during this divorce also. That is issue mainly because of we are handling so many cases regarding the gold also. Somebody buy gold and put in locker, lastly it will become a very big issue between husband and wife, who owns the gold and everything. So it's same like when the person has died, automatically it goes 50% to go to the spouse who the purchase not ETC material.
But is it outside the purview of DIFC? Recently, the DIFC also said that you will have to register your will there. Is it outside what about the jurisdiction of that one?
DIFC is concerning about the UAE international. If you have assets in the UAE, anywhere the place you can register the will in the UAE. But new law only for the Abu Dhabi Emirates only.
Thank you.
Any more questions from the audience? Okay. Would any of our panelists who are joining us virtually like to offer any final thoughts? Mr. George?
I don't have any final thoughts. I think everybody covered everything very well. I think well done job.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Amy, would you like to offer any final thoughts?
Well, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you for asking me to join you, especially in this situation. I am really, really happy to be there. I just want to say something else. I mean, the only thing I want to add for the SME platform that Ibmc is offering, I really ask everyone to just take a few minutes and read about it, think about it, because it's an amazing offer they make. And especially as Mr. Sajid mentioned, during this pandemic, we all have been so isolated and everything just got like big hiccup. So let's get back to business. Have a look at this SME platform, and I really encourage everyone to have a look at that. All the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ms. Ari. And gentlemen on the stage with us tonight, do you have any final thoughts, or do you feel like you've shared everything that you would like to share today?
No, I mean, I'm happy to be here, and we wish to grow together of all the business people, diplomats, entrepreneurs, and new budding entrepreneurs. And next year, we should be even bigger. From 33 to 50, we should become from 50 to maybe double, 100 countries next year. And maybe this room should become smaller for us, and we should take a bigger hall.
Certainly hope so.
And summarizing all, SME economy, that trade flow system, what we were trying to develop 2 years back and already implemented. And it is very, very beneficial for all the stakeholders who are, interested to come to the gold industry. And one of the delegate already raised the question that he is having that experience in the gold industry decades. But opening one bank account is asking a lot of things. So he needs to learn more. So new regulations, new systems are coming in place. So don't hesitate, even if you are not having the experience in the gold industry, to come up. And you can also learn similar way. You are also at par with all the industry people now. So all are welcome to SME economy, e-marketplace, trade flow system. And your growth is economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, I believe on that we will end this panel discussion. Thank you so much for your participation, and thank you, Ms. Aney in Australia, for joining us as well. Appreciate all of your insights today. And we would just like to give a certificate of appreciation for everyone's participation today. Mr. Sajith Kumar will distribute these certificates, I'm sure. Thank you.
Mr. Chendil Kumar? Thank you very much. Advocate Binoy Shashi?
Mr. Binoy Sasi.
And of course, Ms. Ramya.
Oh, thank you so much.
That was a wonderful coordination right from the beginning. Thank you, Ramya.